I'm going to talk a little bit about energy efficiency, and in the context of, for lack of a better word, let's say uncertainty coming out of Copenhagen, and uncertainty in terms of where North America is on regulating carbon and when. Talk a little bit about the importance of local policy innovation and how that can potentially serve as a platform, as a laboratory for informing these larger policy discussions. And to do that, I'd like to talk about a specific mechanism that's proliferating around the United States. It's called Property Assessed Clean Energy, or PACE. And a show of hands, please, of people that are familiar with it. OK.
Who thought PACE was a toothpaste? Did anyone out there think PACE was a toothpaste? Because in Britain, it's a sweet. OK? So PACE, let's have it again, Bruce. PACE is?
PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy.
Property Assessed Clean Energy. I'm going to test someone at the end, and if you get it wrong, you won't be able to leave. Bruce, back over to you.
Thank you. So very quick description of PACE. PACE allows for a private property owner to access public funds to either do an efficiency retrofit of your property or to install distributed generation. And the private property owner agrees to a lien on the property, a tax increase to pay back the public financing. And that tax is structured in a way so that it is offset by the energy savings. So it nets out for the property owner. So by a show of hands, how many of you, given that proposition and what you know so far, how many of you would find that to be a compelling way to save money and contribute to solving climate change? And how many of you would have concerns about, when you go to sell your property, sort of explaining all of this and having potential buyers understand it and get it and be willing to take on both that added benefit but also the tax liability, which, by the way, goes away once the asset or the efficiency is paid off, so it's not a permanent adjustment. Any concerns there? Yeah, sure. And one last question. Any bankers in the room? A show of hands who might see.
So, wait a second. Could you stand up, the three bankers? Just up quickly.
Anyone? Oh, thank you.
If you could stay standing. And are any of you investment bankers? OK. Bruce, sorry.
Well, so one of the big concerns for in this dialogue in the States is that that this mechanism primes mortgage holders. So there's a discussion and a concern around PACE. I want to take just 1 minute and give credit where credit's due. PACE is not our invention. It's, I think, an invention of a few different groups and individuals, maybe even spinning off of some of the the utility on-bill solutions. It's very similar. It solves, I think, a couple really interesting problems. For one, it delinks the investment from the owner and affixes it to the property. So owners who are concerned that they're not going to be in the property long enough to see the payback, which might take 10 plus years, this addresses that issue because it's affixed to the property. Provides a mechanism for upfront capital, and for the municipality, because there is, or the jurisdiction that might be providing the financing, because there's a lien on the property, it doesn't, the financing that they would raise for this purpose doesn't necessarily further encumber them. So there's some nice solutions here, some nice challenges. So credit, right? There's a group called Renewable Funding that did the first PACE program in Berkeley, California. And I have to tell this story really quickly. There is a community in Long Island called Babylon, which did a variation on PACE, which I think is a fabulous story. What they did was they used their authority to tax for removal of solid waste, and they categorized carbon as a solid waste. And what they said was, if we can tax you and come and pick up your trash, we're going to provide the same service for carbon. So we're going to pay to make your property more carbon efficient and allow you to pay for that through a lien on your property. So very, very clever, I think, innovation in that respect. We're thinking about this, I mean, there are a number of ways that we're thinking about PACE and thinking about how something like PACE has the potential to be scaled. Liens are really important in terms of providing security, in terms of thinking about building secondary markets and potentially securitizing financing for efficiency. PACE, we think, holds out some important opportunities. But the sort of flip side of what's great about local innovation, I think, is that we also require standardization. And so one of the concerns, I think, here is, what's often called the patchwork fabric of rules and regulations that make it sometimes difficult to put in place standards, underwriting standards, assurances around the extent to which the retrofit is actually delivering the savings that it's supposed to deliver. And I'll just share one last anecdote and then close up. I experienced my own learning and realization that it's really important. I mean, the most important thing, I think, really is for all of us to just get started and embark on these various initiatives that are out there and innovations. I installed a high-efficiency burner in my co-op just last month. It took me 1.5 years to get my co-op board. I live in a cooperative. It took me 1.5 years to get my co-op board to approve it because a high-efficiency burner emits mostly water vapor, and I couldn't duct that water vapor into a common chimney and had to put a hole in the roof. And there was a lot of hand-wringing about putting a little hole, this big hole in the roof, so that I could go ahead and make this investment and realize the efficiency gains. So there are, I think, lots of little hiccups along the way, lots of learnings, but important for us to just get started.